Hi everyone. I am Julieta Albatira Bacang, your reporter for today. The topic we're going to discuss about the Japan mythology, overview of Japan mythology and Amaterasu. The reporters is, of course, me and Kinit Jan Calda. I'm going to discuss the overview of Japan mythology while Kinit Jan Calda discuss about Amaterasu. Let's start. First, what is mythology? Mythology is a belief system, a collection of stories. They explain the mysteries of life and other natural phenomena. They were about the gods, goddesses, and heroes that the ancient Greeks believed in. Mythology also is a folklore genre consisting of narratives that play a fundamental role in society, such as foundational tales. The main characters in myths are usually gods, demigods, or supernatural humans. Myths are often endorsed by rulers and priests and are closely linked to religion or spirituality. Mythology also is a word used to describe all myths of a particular society. Every culture has its own myths that help us understand its customs and way of viewing the world. Mythology also is a myths are stories about supernatural beings in early times handed down orally from generation to another. Myths attempts to explain such as ideas as nature, where did earth come from? Man, where did man come from? Gods, how many role of gods? So, Japanese mythology. Japanese mythology, during the 4th century BC, a new culture emerged in Japan. These people named Yayoi after the place where their homes were first found by archaeologists. The archaeologists thought that in those periods they came from China and Korea, or persons who were traded with. Japanese mythology also in the Yayoi period, there were prominent people called Yamato clan. Yamato leaders extended their rule over the Japanese islands through warfare and diplomacy. To justify their control, the Yamato rulers associated their clan with a story about the beginning of the world that linked them to the gods who had created it. This creation myth or story about the creation of the world became central to the Shinto religion. Once writing was introduced in Japan, those oral traditions were recorded in the Kojiki, Book of Ancient Things, and the Nihongi, Chronicles of Japan, compiled in the 8th century. Mythology and religion of Japan. Japanese mythology is largely derived from the state religion of Shinto, while Buddhism has overtaken much of Japan. The early Japanese believed that the world around them was inhabited by gods and spirits. Almost every aspect of Japan's stunning natural beauty evoked a sense of awe and wonder among its people. Ancient Japanese elevated this fascination with nature into what was later called Shinto, the way of the kami. The birth of Japan. In the beginning, there was nothing but a shimless egg of swirling gases. Slowly, the lighter areas rose up to form the heavens, and the darker, denser materials sank to form the earth. Three gods of the Japan, the spirit master of center of heaven, the august wondrously producing spirit, the divine wondrously producing ancestor, created themselves and hide in heaven. The earth was young then, and land floated like oil, and from it reed shoots sprouted. From these reeds came two more deities, After them, 5 or 6 pairs of deities came into being, and the last of these were Izanagi and Izanami, whose names means the male who invites and the female who invites. So si Izanagi is the male and the Izanami is the female. So here are the picture of Izanagi and Izanami. So parehas gyapon na siya sa atoan na murag si Adan ug si Eva. The birth of Japan. Izanagi and Izanami were commanded by the heavenly deities to complete and solidify the drifting land. In other words, to form the Japanese islands, standing on the floating bridge of the heaven. They wondered whether there was anything below them, and so dipped the heavenly jeweled spear into the sea below to find out. They stared in the brain with a churning sound, and when they lifted up the spear again, the drifting bringing from the tip of the spear peeled up and became the island of Onogoro. Descending from the heavens, Izanagi and Izanami decided to make their home there and stack the spear on the ground to form the heavenly pillar. The creation of the land. Discovering that their bodies were differently formed, Izanagi asked her spouse Izanami if she was agreeable to give birth to the land in order to produce more islands. When she agreed, they devised a marriage ritual. They walk around the heavenly pillar in opposite directions. When they met, Izanami said, "What a fine young man." Izanagi said, "What a fine young woman." And then they made love. Instead of producing an island, however, she gave birth to a deformed child, Ebisu, which they cast adrift on the sea in a basket. They then gave birth to a child which they did not recognize as a child. So here are the picture of Ebisu. The first child later became the god of fishermen and luck. The creation of the land. Disappointed in their failures in procreation, they returned to heaven to consult the gods, who told them that their mistake lay in the marriage ritual. Izanami should not have spoken first when they met around the pillar, as it is not a woman's place to initiate a conversation. In order to have children, they repeated the ritual, but this time Izanagi spoke first. On their return to Earth, Izanagi and Izanami tried again and were successful. Over time, Izanami bore all the islands of Japan. They produced gods to beautify the islands and also made gods of wind, trees, rivers, and mountains, completing the creation of Japan. The last god produced by Izanami was the fire god, whose birth surged her genitals so badly that she died. However, as she died, she continued to produce more gods from her vomit, urine, and feces. Izanagi mourned over his wife's death, and the tears produced another god. He was so angry that he cut off the fire god's head, but drops of his blood fell on the earth, producing still more deities. So second na anak nila ni Izanagi o si Izanami kay si Agotsushi, god of fire. Then, the creation of the land. Longing for his wife, Izanagi went to the land of Yumi, which led him to the underworld. Finding her in the darkness, he called to her and asked her to come back to the land of living with him. So Izanami replied that it was already too late and that she had consumed the food of Yumi. However, she promised he would go once she asked the gods of the underworld to give her permission to leave, but she asked Izanagi to not look at her while she did this. After a while, Izanagi grew impatient and decided to look for her. He broke the end of his comb and set it afire for a light. When he saw her, he was shocked to find his once beautiful wife to be a rotten corpse being eaten by maggots. Ashamed to be seen in this condition, Izanami chased Izanagi out of the underworld. First, she sent the demon thunder deities that were born from her body to chase after him, and then she pursued him herself. So, Raijin God of Thunder. Si Fujin, God of Wind. Si Fujin. So at last, he grasped a huge rock and used it to close the passage to the underworld. Enraged, she shouted to him, "If you behave this way, I will strangle and kill 1,000 men from your land." He then replied with, "Then if you do this, I would cause 1,500 men to be born." So Izanagi returned to his home and begged to purify himself from all the uncleanliness, and he removed his clothing. New gods arose from his robe, accessories and more arose from the water as he cleansed himself of the impurities of Yomi. Misogi, a ritual purification by washing the entire body by the river. Next, in the last step of the purification ceremony, Izanagi washed his left eye, from which Amaterasu Omikami was born, from his right eye, Tsukuyomi no Mikoto, and from his nose, Susanoo no Mikoto was born. The three gods were called the three precious children. So, the three precious children was Amaterasu Omikami, Tsukuyomi no Mikoto, and si Susanoo no Mikoto. So, the three precious children, Amaterasu, the goddess, the sun, goddess, the sun and universe, si Tsukuyomi, god of the moon, si Susanoo, god of the sea and storms. So, other gods and goddesses. So, parehas rigapon na sa tua na mga Christian o mga different religion na adyo tayo kuan kanang kinanin mga goddess na gipamtuan about pa na sa atong sinaunang mga ninuno before, so na-adapt na nato na, so paingon ta transfer from generation to generation yun na siya. So ang Japan di pud pa huli na pud sila. So first goddesses nila kasi Aizen Mio, god of love worshipped by prostitutes, landlords, singers, and musicians. Next is si Benten Binzaiten, o si Benjetin, goddess of love, beauty, eloquence, and music, as well as a sea goddess. The third one is si Kaminari, goddess of thunder. Next one is Aminomi Kumari, Shinto, goddess of water. Rowo, god of sea, known as the Dragon King. Next is Inari Okami, kami of foxes of fertility, rice, tea, and sick of agriculture and industry, of general prosperity and worldly success. So, next one is Mikaboshi, god of evil and stars, specifically the pole star, enemy of Kaminari. So, magkalaban si Kaminari o si Mikaboshi. Si Kaminari kay mao ni si Kuan, kani goddess of thunder. So, magkalaban na silang duha. Kani si Mikaboshi. Next one is si Hachiman, the god of war, warriors of the divine, protector of Japan and its people. Next one is si Bishamon o Bishamonten, god of war, justice, and law, God of North. Next one is si Uke-Mochi, goddess of food who blesses the earth with abundance. Next one is Tenjin, god of learning, language, and calligraphy. He taught humans to write. Next one is si Hote, god of contentment and happiness. So that will be all. Thank you for the listening. So mara to siya guys. Bye-bye!